already discussed. Mga general ideas lang. You mentioned that you already studied about variables. What else? Printf statement, di ba? Ano pa? Yung escape sequence na /n. So, mag-break line yun. Ano pa? Nag-scanf na kayo? Hindi pa. Okay. So, scanf, yun yung, that's the way you take user inputs. But anyway, before we proceed to the actual programming or the coding, we must first understand where this language came from, or better yet, the history of programming in general. So here's the introduction to C programming and its history. So we will be discussing four main pointers. Firstly, the history and development. So for those that like to take notes, don't worry, but because I will be posting this, actually I've already posted this in our Google Classroom. So there's our classroom code for the new students here. So the second one will be terminology. The third topic will be characteristics and uses, and the fourth is syntax. Okay, so this is what you have to take note of. These two people are the most important characters or personalities in the entire history of, you could argue, entire history of programming. Because C programming is one of the earliest programming languages, and all of the later programming languages were basically modeled around this programming language. So please read the first pointer, the guy in green. What's your name? Arthur. Please read the first pointer.
Presented by B, a programming language developed in 1959 at Bell Labs by Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie.
Okay. So, anong company? What's the name of the company?
Bell Labs.
Bell Labs, correct. So, who are the two personalities? Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Okay. So, next pointer, please read the girl in blue book.
She was made from 1970 to 1970, also at Bell
Labs.
Labs
By
Dennis
Dennis.
Required training
Operating.
operate
Right. Okay, so can anyone give any examples of operating systems? Raise your hand or just shout the answer. Example. Tama, Windows. Ano pa? The cell phone. Android. Correct. So, what are the other counterparts of those OSs? We also have Linux, tapos yung Mac OS. And then in the mobile world, we have Android and iOS. So, let me just note this down. C, so it was preceded by B, pero hindi ginagamit yung B, it's not very popular. So, it was made by Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Okay, so here are the keywords. Bell Labs, Dennis Ritchie, Ken Thompson. So if I were you, I would ingrain this into my mind because it might come up in the midterm exam unless you've already finished the solo learn activity, which will give you additional points or maybe even exempt you from the entire exam. Anyway, so the terminology is also important to understand. GCC, okay, let's have the people at the front go. Can you read the first paragraph?
GCC, GNUC compiler or GNU compiler collection. Compiles C and C++ objective minus C objective plus C++ for type A, Ada, B, and Go.
Okay, so I'm discussing these terms because they might come up later on when we use the terminal, like when we, is everyone familiar with the command prompt? Yes. What have you done with the command prompt? Examples.
Automatic shutdown ng device.
That's a relatively advanced use of the command prompt, but some of the more common uses of the command prompt is by, for example, using the host name command where you will get the name of the computer, and also ipconfig. Have you heard of the command ipconfig? That will give you the IP address and other details of the computer like the MAC address and GCC. So coming back to GCC, we have a command that is very important in C programming, which starts with the three letters GCC. So that's what it means. So GCC, and then you write the name of your C file, which commonly ends in .c, and then you type hyphen, not the long minus, but the short sort of minus, and then letter O, and then whatever name you want to give your compiled file. So, for example, you can write sample. Okay, hopefully that's still visible in our live stream, but there is gcc main.c-o and then sample. So this will output sample.exe. Okay, so these dots and then the letters that come after it are called file types or file extensions. So .exe stands for executable. So have you ever seen files that have .exe? Yes. Give an example. For example, a game or Google Chrome or basically any other application. That's what it means. So when it ends with .exe, it means that it's already compiled into machine code or ones and zeros. Because we have what is called source code, and then we translate that into something that our computers can understand, which is binary code or machine code. And it will be zeros and ones. So that's called binary code or machine code. Okay. So next, kuya, yung GNU naman. Okay, by the way, you read GNU as GNU. So please read GNU.
Alternative OS to Unix. Basic for the development of Linux and its distribution. Cannot not Unix. Recursive acronym. Made by Richard Stallman.
Richard Stallman. Okay. So, ito pa. So, ilan yung pangalan natin? 1, 2, tapos meron pa Richard Stallman. Richard Stallman. Double L, M-A-N. Okay, so Richard Stallman is the person who made GNU. And recursive means basically it's looping or going to itself. So if you notice, GNU is an acronym, but it refers to itself. So it means the first letter stands for itself. So GNU is not Unix. Because Unix is basically an operating system at times. 921 hard. So since 1989, C has been standardized by these two institutions. So what does ANSI mean? Well, ano yung meaning now? ANSI. Just read the American National Standards. And ISO means
International Organization for
Standardization. Okay, so those are two acronyms that may also come up in our exam. But what's more important is the syntax later on, which we're going to discuss. So, have you ever noticed that your keyboards has sometimes a long enter key like this, and sometimes it's big like this? Diba? So, this is made by the ISO or International Organization for Standardization. So hindi yan International Standardization Organization. Magkabaliktad yung iOS, pero actually acronym yan. Kasi trivia lang, ISO comes from the Greek word isos, which means equal. So para magkaroon ng standardization, para lang. Tapos ito naman ay gawa ng ANSI. So, alam niyo na, pag tinanong kayo, ano yung keyboard mo? ISO bro. Diba? Kaya techie ka. Kasi malaki yun pala, alam mo lang dahil malaki yung enter. Anyway, so GNU versus Linux. Na-try niyo na ba gumamit ng Linux? Hindi pa. Right, so Linux is, let's give it an image of Linux. So Linux is comparable to Windows OS, except it's used for most of the time servers. So this is Linux, and that's what it looks like. Actually, this is Windows. So it's a very techy looking OS because it's used for technical stuff basically. It's used for servers, and it's also used for hacking, if any of you are interested in hacking. The Linux is spread into different distros or distributions like Kali Linux, Ubuntu. Have you ever heard of Ubuntu? Okay, so Kali Linux is used for pen testing. Pen testing means penetration testing, and it's basically looking for the loopholes in the system. Anyway, so that's Linux. So GNU is made with C, the programming language we're studying. So GNU is an OS, and from GNU, Linus Torvalds, so here's another name, Linus Torvalds, developed the operating system Linux. So, merong mga certification like Red Hat certification that leads to eventually very, what do you call it, very rewarding careers, like the Red Hat certification, and what you will be called is a system administrator if you know how to navigate through Linux operating systems. So let's have the 5 generations of programming languages. From here po, can you read the first 1GL,
1GL is equals to binary or machine code.
2GL,
2GL assembly is
3,
3GL popular language.
popular languages, and we have 4GL also and 5GL. So, ano yung mga alam niyo ng programming language?
Java.
C, Java, right. Ano pa? Ano po?
Python.
Python, right. Yung Python, minsan, it has the stigma that it's difficult, but it's actually one of the easiest languages. So when you say high-level programming language, it's nearer to the top here. And higher level means it's nearer to the natural language. So we have 2 types of languages. The first type is natural language, which is like French, Tagalog, English, and all of the spoken word languages. And then the formal languages are codes. So these are has specific rules to them. So for example, C programming and all of these other programming languages, Python, etc., are formal language. Another example is mathematics. Mathematics is actually technically a language, but it's called a formal language because it is governed by a set of rules. So all the way at the bottom is machine code, which we have discussed. So can you define machine code? I've already said ones and zeros, diba? Tama. Exactly. Binary. Nakasulat na pala. Anyway, so, yan. Pag in-abstract mo, meaning na abstract, ibig sabihin simplify, magiging mnemonic siya or assembly code. Tapos pag in-abstract mo ulit yun, kaya simple mo ulit, magiging 3GL languages or 3rd generation languages na alam natin lahat ngayon. Yung C, C++, Java, Python, lahat ng yan. 3GL yung tawag. So, in 4GL, we have languages like SQL, R, and MATLAB. You may have heard of SQL or SQL. It's used for databases. R is used for statistics. MATLAB stands for Matrix Laboratory, and it's used for mathematics most of the time, maybe engineering. Prolog is used for AI and natural language processing. So NLM, we're running out of space here. Okay, so AI, maybe you've heard of the term AI, di ba? Kasi it's a very popular idea today. So it stands for Artificial Intelligence, and a branch of AI, or the application of AI, is NLM, or Natural Language, or rather NLP, Natural Language Processing. Natural Language Processing. And that is what allows for products like ChatGPT, which allows us to cheat on all of our assignments. Just kidding. Okay, so next, yun. So Prolog yung ginagamit dyan. Pero yung pinaka-importante dyan, 3GL. Proceeding, the types of translators. So, we've been saying compile over and over again, but what does it actually mean? So, there are 3 types of translators. Kasi pag naglagay ka ng let's open up Notepad here. Kanyari nag-code ka ng C#, sabi mo, using system, tapos namespace, program, tapos meron kang mga ganyan, class, etc. Panay English words yan, di ba? Merong namespace, program, class. Hindi yan naiintindihan ng computer. Naiintindihan niya yung ones tsaka zeros. So, para maging 1 tsaka 0 lahat yan, we have certain types of programs that convert these words into ones and zeros. So, pag natapos yan, magiging ganito na lang siya. Example. So, ulit-ulit yan, sobrang haba. Tapos, iba-iba yan. Tapos, yung file extension yan, .exe. So, now you know what the .exe file contains. So, there are 3 types of translators. So, the first one is assembler, but the 2 most common ones are compilers and interpreters. So, the assembler is the one that translates code like, let me just erase all of these for now. Alright, so meanwhile, who is the inventor of C language? Charles Babbage is the father of computers. Dennis Ritchie is the correct. So Dennis Ritchie is the inventor of C language. And then ano pa nga yung na-discuss natin kanina? Kasama niya yung C. Okay, so yung B language, yung sino yung kasama ni Dennis Ritchie sa paggawa ng B language? Ken Thompson, correct. Okay, so who else? Well, anyway, you can just review that later on. So the types of translators are assemblers, compilers, and interpreters. So ASM, example ng ASM, ganyan, MOV, tapos mga number, etc. It's not very commonly used. Most of the time, you're going to be using languages like Python, C++, etc. But an assembler does that. So, can anyone read this paragraph on the right? Kuya, yung gagawin.
The processor of smartphones, Android, Snapdragon, and iPhones A15 Bionic use the ARM architecture Acorn RISC machine. RISC reduced instruction set computer.
So, yung assemblers, they are known for their high performance. That's why they are placed in our cell phones. So our cell phones are very small yet very powerful because of their efficiency. So this efficiency is all thanks to the RISC architecture, or architecture basically is how they design the microchip of the computer. It's not a computer language like C language. It's an architecture. So even though they are very small, due to their efficiency, they're much faster and also use less energy. Okay, next is compilers. So compilers gather all of your words like printf, scanf, and then it compiles, pagsasama-sama niya, tapos sinahalo-halo niya, maging 10001 yan, tapos may .exe na yan. On the other hand, we have interpreters. Yung Python at JavaScript, you may have heard of it in web development, is not compiled, but rather they are interpreted. Interpreted means you have, for example, 3 lines of code. It does not gather all of it and convert it into a .exe file. Rather, it goes through each line and then executes it first. So, kunyari, print nyo muna yung pangalan mo, print nyo yung age mo, magde-declare ng variable, isa-isa nyo yung gagawin. So that's why they are called scripting languages. So, okay, another trivia is, for assembly languages, each microchip or processor, so basically each individual computer, most of the time have a different language. Kaya wala tayong mga pangalan na Java, C, Python sa assembly language kasi masyado silang marami. They are too many to name individually. So, next is a very unique language, which is Java. Because Java, have you ever heard of the catchphrase, write once, run anywhere? Narinig niyo na yan, di ba? Okay, so, write once, run anywhere is a catchphrase of Java because it can run on basically anything. Ayos pa ba yung live stream natin? Alright. Okay. So, pwede siyang gumana kahit saan nilagay mo. You can put it in a Windows laptop, in a Mac computer, in a Android cell phone, or even in a refrigerator or a microwave because it's very versatile. So that's what it means for write once anywhere, run anywhere language. Because it is both compiled and interpreted. So most of the time, a language is only compiled, or either compiled or interpreted. It is never both. But for the case of Java, it is both. So before it is executed, it is first compiled. So what does compile mean? Can anyone answer? Basically, basic understanding. Ano yung compilation? Pagsasama na tama. Tapos yung interpreted per line, tama, exactly. So yun lang ang kailangan nyo maintindihan dun. Java is first compiled. So pagsasama-sama muna siya. Tapos gamit yung JVM or Java Virtual Machine, i-interpret naman yung compiled na bytecode na tawag doon. But anyway, we're not studying about Java, but we only study that because we have to remember the 3 types of translators. So what are the 3? Assembler, compiler, interpreter. Okay. So, namamaos na ako, so kayo naman magbasa. Characteristics of C, bro, naka-red. Si Kuya po. Gulat, good morning. So, pabasa po na una. Ay, kita niyo ba? Ay, nasa cellphone niya, nice.
Performance. C is known for its speed. Lower level language.
Right. Okay, lower level. So, katulad yung assembly. Pero yung assembly, mas mababa siya sa C. Kasi, what GL is assembly again? Di ba, 1 to 5 yan? 2 GL siya. So, nasa taas siya ng 1 GL na machine code. 1GL, 2GL assembly, 3GL yung mga C, Java, Python, C++, etc. Okay, next. Atin na kadilaw. Papasa po ng second.
Execution. The parent is sorted into an X file and run orders at once.
Okay, so we already discussed compilation. Next, paradigm. So, meron G yan, pero hindi yan kaya pronounce. So, basa dyan, paradigm. Ito yung, let's have someone to read it first. Kuya. Hindi ako puti. Yung pangalawa.
Paradigm. Designed for procedural programming, but still usable for OOP.
Okay, OOP is actually a language in, I think, second year. You're going to study about that also. It stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Not to go too deep into it, but object-oriented means gagawa ka ng, kunyari mamaya makita natin, merong struct na keyword sa C. Tapos, you can give it attributes and methods. So basically, you can model a car. So, a car has a color, maximum speed, 0 to 60 time, mga ganun, type of suspension, etc. So, yun yung OOP. So, paradigm means a manner of thinking or a way of programming. So, yung C, procedural, yung tawag sa kanya, kasi it runs function by function. So, it does not, it is not designed to use OOP. Pero, that's a pretty advanced concept anyway. So, let's just understand that C is procedural. Tapos yung C++ naman, it is a superset of C. It extends the capabilities of C. And then, it is also OOP, or uses OOP. So, C is procedural, C++ is OOP. Okay, statically typed, what does that mean? Ate nakakulay green sa harap ni Ate Yellow. Yan.
Statically typed. Data types must be specified. That's it.
Right. Okay, so, di ba, nag-variables na kayo? What do you type before, for example, now? Meron pa pala dito. Ano yung keyword?
Data type.
Tama. So, ano yung data type? Ano yung 3 letters siya? Tama. INT. So, INT is a data type. Tapos, yung variable name. Kunyari, num. Wala na palang tinta to. Okay. So, int is a data type. Num is the variable name. Okay. So, sa mga ibang language kasi, hindi mo na kailangan to. For example, saan ba? JavaScript.
Python, sir.
Oh, Python, tama. Ganyan ka lang, di ba? Num equals 3. Tapos wala nang semicolon. So, mas madali siya. Pero, the downside of that is because it is more highly likely or more likely to give you errors. Because sometimes, say you have num2, tapos, does anyone have an extra whiteboard marker? So, you have num2, tapos pwede ka maglagay ng double quotes, tapos 4 naman. So, anong data type to? Tama, string. So, number yung nasa loob niya, pero string siya, kasi meron siyang double quotes. So, pag in-add mo yan, yung mga ibang language, pag nag-num1 plus num2 ka, lalabas dyan, 7. Pero hindi dapat posible yun. Kasi they are two different data types. One is an integer, one is a string. So when you add them, it should give you an error. So it will prevent any further execution. So statically type yung tawag doon. Yung tawag sa Python, sa JavaScript, dynamic. Kasi they don't use the keywords int, char, bool, and float, and double, etc. So static, statically typed, merong mga ganon, dynamically typed, they're automatic, and sometimes easier. Common uses of C. So, dito naman tayo sa lane na to. Sa likod ni Ate naka-blue. Okay, number 1.
Operating systems, Unix, Windows, OS X, kernels, Mac, Apple, GNU, and Linux.
GNU is pronounced as GNU. Okay. Next, kuya naman naka-Boston. America. Ay, sorry.
Device drivers, CPU, keyboard, mouse, speakers, printers.
Ibig sabihin ng driver. Yung tinatawag mo sa tricycle, di ba? Hindi. Yung driver, device, when you say device driver, it is the program that manages or interfaces between the hardware and the software. So, kaya rin meron kang RTX 4090 kasi pro gamer ka. Meron yung, hindi yan gagana kung wala kang tinatawag na driver. So, mag-install ka from NVIDIA na driver in order for the GPU to work properly. Di ba, kanyari pag nagsaksak ka ng printer. Have you ever tried to plug in a printer into a new computer and then it does not work? Diba? Kasi you have to download a driver for that printer to work on your computer. Kasi hindi niya alam kung paano makipag-usap sa kanya. Okay. Protocol stacks. Kuya naman naka-blue. And then, karoon tayong bago bro dito. Bro Afro, read the third one. May point ba? Ayan, dito ka na lang. Sige. What's your name, bro? Please read the third box. Yeah.
Protocol stacks, Internet Protocol, Address Resolution Protocol, HTTP.
Okay, so yung mga protocol is a way for computers to communicate to, but in a different way naman. So, Internet Protocol or IP is used to give computers and networks certain addresses. So, they will be uniquely identified. So, there are two types of IP addresses, the public and then the private. So, yung public, yun yung nasa router mo, yun yung nakikita ng buong mundo, kunyari 127, etc. or 172 something. Tapos, yung private mo naman, normally, it is 192.168.1 something. So, C is also used to make those protocols. So, there is also ARP or Address Resolution Protocol. It connects the MAC address and your IP address. You're going to learn that in networking. And then, you also have HTTP and HTTPS. So, pag merong S na nakita kayo sa address bar, kanyari ito, ayan o. Pag may S yan, ibig sabihin secure or it's safer. Pag wala yung S, kunyari, yung PhilHealth natin, joke lang. Ibig sabihin, bano yung gumawa na, joke lang. Huwag kayo maglalagay ng personal information pag walang S yung address bar na yun. Because it is likely phishing. Spell phishing, bro. Mali. So, yung phishing kasi sabi ko, it starts with the letters PH. PHISHING. Phishing. Hindi ka nangingisda. Okay.
Nagpapawas tayo ng page.
Tapos proceeding, meron mga applications. Alam niyo yung Doom na video game? C yung ginamit para ma-code yun. So you can imagine it's Print F ka, scanner, tapos sobrang haba yung pinagagawa mo. Tapos nakakagawa ka ng ganun laro, 3D pa. So imagine how long that program will be. So normally, we use the programming languages like C++ and C# because they are easier and shorter. Pero pag mas mahaba kasi, they tend to be faster in terms of their performance. So that is why C and assembly language, which is even longer, and I doubt that most programmers even know how to program with ASM or assembly language. So yung kaya nga kaya niyo mag-run sa calculator. Pwede ka mag-doom sa scientific calculator. Nakakita na ba kayo ng gano'n?
Sample daw ito.
Sample. Okay, naging gamer. Doom game in calculator. Panis. Okay. Alright, so nakapaglaro siya ng 3D na laro sa calculator. Kasi this highlights the performance efficiency of the C language. Okay, so there are also memes that you can run Skyrim. Have you ever heard of that? But it's less likely for Skyrim to run in these types of machines because Skyrim is most likely written in C++ and with a game driver like have you ever heard of Godot and Unity and Unreal Engine, di ba? Yun yung mga ginagamit para makagawa ng laro. Okay. So that's the power of C. Okay. Embedded systems naman yung kanina. Example niyan ay Arduino. Actually, it's not an embedded system but a microcontroller. But it also uses C. Okay, let's proceed. So, napag-usapan na natin kanina yung static, dynamic, strong, tsaka weak. So, what is C? Is it a static or dynamic? Atin ang clue. Okay, so pag static na alala nyo, gagamit siya ng int, char, bool. So, may ganun yung C. Tapos yung dynamic naman, examples, JavaScript, di ba? Python. Tapos yung strong tsaka weak, some people say that strong and weak, those terms are not technical, but they're still widely used. When you read forums, like forums in Reddit, forums in XDA, or Stack Overflow, sometimes they use the word strong and weak. Hindi sabihin muscular yung C programming language. Sabihin lang yan, pag nag-add ka, ito yung pinaka-common na instance yan. Pag weak programming language siya, weakly typed. So, meron yung kadugtong, statically typed, dynamically typed, tapos strongly typed, weakly typed. So, when it is weakly typed, it means that you can sometimes add an integer with a string and it will return an integer. Whereas it should not allow that because they are different data types as we discussed earlier. So, keywords. Yung mga pagsabi ng mga keywords. Tara, extra points sa midterm. Paunahan. Okay lang. Raise your hand and then point out the keyword and then say what it means or what it's used for.
Yung float.
Yes.
Will give you the decimal value.
Tama. It can give you a decimal value. So what's your name? Surname na lang.
Poderano.
Poderano?
Poderano. Poderano.
Poderano. Poderano. Okay. So, meron na siya points. Next. Wala na may gusto ikaw.
Return, sir.
Return.
Used for functions, sir, para mag-return ng value.
Correct. What's your surname?
Unix.
Magsaysay. Ano, meron tayong bayani dito. Okay, ano pa? Naka-live stream pala yung pagmumura ko, joke lang. Anyway, ano pa? Ang sino ng wild loop? Sa bagay, di pa naman natin na-discuss yan. Anyway, yan, alright. Okay, so yan yung mga data type natin. Tapos meron namang yung tawag dito sa nasa kaliwa, ito, format specifier. Di ba yung meron tayong %d para sa integer, tapos %s para sa string, tapos meron pa ano pa ba? Yung LF tsaka F, pareho yung pang decimal numbers, pero yung LF, it can store larger numbers of decimals. Next, ay, napindot. Next, uy, huwag na daw, nabobore na yung presentation ko. Okay, let's code daw, let's code. Okay, so ito, sample daw, sample. Okay, dahil malupit ako, ipapresent ko tong live stream natin. Alright. Yan ang inception. Okay.